But here in these chapters, we will learn how to answer questions related with yourself, your project functionality, how you should answer about your project, your design of the project, then how to rate yourself, and then how to answer interview questions. This is the most important one, because I have seen many candidates have the knowledge, but either they forget the answer and mostly give incomplete answers. Okay, so we will learn how to give a good answer, that is very important, as I said, and we will also learn how to answer when you don't know the answer. Okay, so that's we will also learn in this section, in this phase. So let's start with the first question. Now, the first question every interviewer will ask you is, tell me something about yourself. Remember, introduction is like the first impression in front of the interviewer. And you already know first impression is last impression, right? If the introduction is good and first impression is good, then the interviewer will be positive about you from the beginning throughout the interview. Now, first I will show you the introduction of the experienced candidate and then the fresher candidate. Here is the good example of experienced candidate from where to start. First, you have to tell your name. My name is John, obvious. Then you have to share your experience. I have 2, 3, 4 years of experience. Next, you have to tell your primary core specialization, 1 or 2 skills. I specialize in C#, .NET Core and building RESTful APIs. Just an example, you can replace this with your own primary skills. Okay, and then you have to share your last role. This is very important. In my last project, I independently developed and deployed multiple APIs of a .NET Core microservices project. Okay, now this is very important because when you are sharing your last role, you are giving the trust in the introduction itself that I have the practical experience and this is my achievement. This is the role, or you can also say this is the achievement. The same thing they are. Okay, I independently developed something. So if the interviewer have some requirement, then they will have some confidence that this guy has some real experience. Okay, so basically this is giving the hope to the interviewer that yes, this guy can do something. Okay, so that's all about the good introduction of the experienced candidate. And yes, you can write all your skills in the resume, but here you have to mention only the 1-2 primary skills, not the all. And then the hobbies, as I said, hobbies and your location, all these are optional thing. Okay, now let's see the introduction of a fresher candidate who don't have any experience. And if you are the experienced one, then you can skip the rest of the video. That's completely fine. That's not for you now. Here is the fresher candidate, and the same way, my name is John. Then the fresher has to tell the internship something. I have done internship in company. That's it. And if you think you have something else more important in your introduction, then share it with me. Another question in the interview can be, explain your current projects and your roles and responsibilities. Here is the sample description I will give you. First, there are basically 5 important things when you are telling something about your project. So we will start from the first element and tell that in the first line, tell my last project was the e-commerce waste management project. So basically you have to tell the project name and the domain. Okay. Second, in 1 or 2 sentences, you have to describe the very high level use of your application for the end users. Okay. Third element is the technology which you have used in your project. Then fourth element is explain your own role, what you did there as a developer, how you created the project, how you created the module on time, and how you did the testing. And the last and the fifth element of your current project is delivery model. If you have followed some model like Agile, Sprint, and some tools, CI/CD, then that you can add in this delivery or model. So these are the 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements of the project description. And these are as it is same in your resume. You do not have to memorize this. Just write in this structure only your resume, which I already shared, right? The same structure I have mentioned here, so that you just say from your resume. You are not memorizing this. You are just saying the same thing which you have written in your resume. That's how you describe your project, and you do not forget the answer in any interview. Okay, that's the answer. The next question is, explain the technical design or architecture of your project. Here, if you have not already given the high level description or functionality of your project, then start from a 1-line functionality overview of the project. And here is the design you will start. For example, first you have to tell the architecture of your project, whatever it is, microservices, multi-tier or component based, whatever. Okay. Next, you have to tell the main components or services of your project, front end, back end, database, whatever. Then the next step is you are going basically more deep. Slowly you are going more deep inside your project. Then you have to tell the flow of data. So first we get the request from front end, we send it to the API, then API service layer, controllers will receive service layer, then business logic is written, any database interaction will happen in repository, and then we will send the response back to the front end. So this is how you have to tell the flow of data in a very, 3 or 4 lines, so that they can get the idea. Okay. Finally, after this, you can tell if there are any design patterns and tools used in your project. That is also very important thing, because then they will know that you are using some good design patterns and some good tools. So that is how you will explain the technical design and architecture of your project. Around 70 to 100 words, you have to create it for yourself. This is just an example. Okay. And yes, one thing, use the latest technology words to impress the interviewers, like microservices, loosely coupled design, domain-driven design, dependency injection, etc., etc. But do not say something that you do not understand and you can't explain, because then if the interviewer will ask some question and you are not able to explain, that's not good. Don't say anything in the interview questions which you do not explain. Okay, because as I said, then if you will be caught for saying something lie, then it's not good. Okay, be careful. Say some story which is very close to the truth. Next question interviewer can ask is, rate yourself in technical skills from 1 to 10. Very common question. For example, he will ask you to rate yourself in Angular, .NET, React, Java, C Sharp, JavaScript, whatever skills you have or whatever skills they want in their own project. It's just a confidence checking question. Now, always remember, try to rate yourself as much as you can between 5 to 9. For example, if you think you are 8 in JavaScript, then say 9. Add +1, show confidence, and if possible, explain the reason of the confidence. For example, I rate 9 myself in JavaScript because in my last project I used it extensively in my project. That's why. But yes, do not rate yourself 10. 10 is a sign of overconfidence, and it means you have nothing more to learn, right? Now, if you know nothing about something like you don't know nothing about React, but you have no React as a front end, still you can rate yourself 2 to 4 as per your knowledge, but never rate yourself 0 or 1 something. Okay, that's very bad. Say 2 if you have just one line idea of that technology, and say that I have some idea. See, be honest, but with some confidence. Show some confidence. And for example, if I'm taking the interview and I need just average JavaScript skills in the candidate, and candidate will rate himself 1, then there is no point in asking question, right? From the beginning itself, I have my mood set. Okay, that guy rated himself 2 or 3, 1. Then why should be I asking him the question? He has some theoretical knowledge. Okay, then I will do just the formality for completing the interview, and the rejection will happen. Okay, point is, show some confidence, show +1 rating as per your own. Increase your rating by +1. That's the thing. How to answer technical interview questions. This is a very important point, because even if you know the answer, the chances are you are not presenting your answer in a right way. This is a very, very common problem I have seen among many candidates. For that, the baseline is, in technical interviews, please do not give one line answer. Okay, let me explain. See, every company assign a time slot for the interviews, 30 to 40 minutes for a one interview, right? Agree? And suppose the interviewer has the list of 20 questions. Now, when the interviewer will ask you a question and you give a correct one line answer, short answer in just 30 seconds, then he will ask you all the 20 questions, because he has a lot of time left in that 30-minute time slot. Getting my point? And then there are chances that you did not know the answers of many of them out of 20 questions. Okay, that's the thing. But if you answer the same question for 30 minutes instead of, for 2 minutes, one question and answer you are answering in 2 minutes instead of 30 seconds, then the interviewer has less time to ask more questions. And if you answer 7 to 8 questions with details out of the first 10 questions in the 30-minute time slot, then the interviewer will stop asking questions. The time is done, he will be satisfied, and you have a very high chance of selection because you are answering in detail, you are giving the good answers. Okay, so if you know the answer, elaborate the answer as much as possible. Now the question is, you will ask us to me, is how to speak the answer for 2 minutes, how to elaborate, right? For that, for example, interviewer will ask you a very simple question. Just I'm giving the example only. Okay, what are OOPS concepts? Now, one short answer is, OOPS is object-oriented programming. It has 4 concepts: inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. That's it. By give answer. So that is again short answer, one line answer, but you have to give the answer something like this. 3 key elements for answering any question in interview. First, say the definition, which I just said, that OOPS concept is object-oriented programming and it includes inheritance, polymorphism, Okay, this is the first element. Then second element, you will have to explain the advantages of that concept. Every concept which is created in software engineering has some advantages. That's why it's created, right? So you have to say you can create reusable components using the OOPS concepts. Okay, if you don't know, then that's different thing, but most of the time we know. Okay, and the third element is, say the work experience, basically your work experience which you have did with OOPS. Like, I have used inheritance for creating parent-child classes and other concept also in my last project. So that's, you are saying that I have implemented this concept, OOPS concepts, practically. This way you will give a very positive impression, a very positive sign in the front of the interviewer. Also, the interviewer will be knowing now that you have the in-depth practical knowledge of this concept. Whole point is, try to elaborate more and more until the interviewer will say, okay, that's enough. Okay, so again, it's not easy. I said it, elaborate, but when you will start giving interviews, it will not happen automatically. So how it will happen? For that, you have to practice the mock interviews and practice answering the questions like this. Slowly, you will get the habit. Okay, and I have covered the mock interviews also in other course. So that's how you will answer the technical interview question. That's the idea. But what if you don't know the answer? You are zero in answer. Then how to handle that situation? That I will explain in next question. All right, now what to do when you don't know the answer? See, first thing is, for basic questions like OOPS, you do not have any option. Okay, so you have to know the basic questions, the answers of the basic questions. I always say If you are not able to answer some advanced question, then that is fine. But make sure your basics and fundamentals are very, very strong. Mostly in interviews, first 3-4 questions are considered as basic questions. And if you can't answer them, then it's a problem. It's a negative impression. But for example, you have answered first 5 questions and in next 5 to 10 question, interviewer asking some advanced question, then what? So that I will show you how to answer that question. And for advanced question, do not say no directly. First thing. For example, interviewer will ask you what is lambda expression and you don't know it. Now, if you don't know the answer partially or completely, then try to say something, whatever you know, and then say, I have implemented this concept like this. I have implemented this concept in my past project some months back or some years back, but right now I am not able to recall it properly. Now the interviewer and everyone understand that humans can't remember or memorize everything. Okay, so you will get some psychological benefit or sympathy from the interviewer by this answer that okay, you have implemented, but right now you are not able to explain it because that is the memory thing. Okay, that is the memory, right? So that is the tactics, and I have used it in my own interviews. That's why I'm telling you, and I know it works. That's why I'm sharing also. But yes, this trick can be done with only 1 or 2 questions only. Otherwise, if for every question you will say I implemented the concept but I don't remember the answer, then that will not work. Okay, that is like you are faking. That will come. That he will understand. Again, do not try this technique on very basic questions because basic knowledge is a must to have. For slightly advanced questions, you can try this. All right, that is the thing. And again, this answering ability will only come when you will practice the mock interviews provided by me. And you can also, if you think I'm missing anything or you can add something from your interview experience, then just let me know. All right, friend, now this is the time for the MR interview. Remember, MR interview is taken by a manager who is a senior person, so he will ask 2 kinds of questions. First, your project related questions, which I already covered in technical round earlier.